Hey guys, it's me, David, your Kokamish.
You're the co-commish, John.
And we have our special guest here today. We have Joe from Who's Joe Mama.
Hi, guys.
And we also have James from You're Not Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
So to start everything off, we're going to talk about the players above 30 points this week. So we have Darren Waller, who's actually on James's team, who got 45 points. That's pretty awesome. Corey Davis got 35.2 points, helped Israel kind of steal the lead from me. Devontae Adams got David 34 points, not that it really mattered. Derek Carr got 31.7 points, part of that Benji explosion of points. Josh Allen got 31.1 points for James again. And then our few honorable mentions that got under 30 points, but still deserve, something for it. Baker Mayfield. I thought that one was a little crazy. He got 29.4. Cole Beasley went off on Monday night for 28 points. And the Patriots defense got 28 points on Sunday against that Chargers offense that just stunk up the field.
Yep, good points from all those players. And the winners this week were Steph, James, Joe, Paez, Benji, and Israel. And a notable shout out to Joe for his third straight win that he desperately needed to make the playoffs. And also shout out to Benji for his fourth straight win since taking over the team from Caesar and knocking me out, unfortunately. Great team managing, guys. But note to Benji, I will eliminate you in our other league in the playoffs. Anywho, going into the matchups this past week, the Benji versus me matchup. So Benji having Derek Carr going off against the Jets for 4 total touchdowns, including that Hail Mary at the end. That's 31 points. He really dashed the hopes and prayers of the Jets win, though honestly that blitz call, they kind of probably were trying to lose on purpose. And on the other side of the ball for the Raiders, their defense gave up 28 points, but scored 7 points, pretty serviceable. The wide receivers for Minnesota scored Benji big with a total of 48 points between Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Like, damn. And Allen Robinson had a decent game against Detroit's defense for 13 points.
So for David's team, we had Devontae Adams, who was your best player and scored half of the points he scored the whole week. Antonio Gibson got injured. Miles Sanders had a rough game. Carson Wentz got replaced in-game by Jalen Hurts. A lot of tough stuff there. But Tyreek Hill played pretty well against Denver for, I think, 14 points. And Hunter Henry had a tough game. But then again, so did everyone else on the Chargers. So can't really speak too much there.
Agreed. And in the Pies versus Paris matchup, we have Stephon Diggs playing really well on Monday night against an often tough Niners secondary, scoring a total of 19 points. Jacoby Myers had a tough game. Cam Newton threw less than 100 yards, so you can't really expect much out of Jacoby there. Deontay Johnson scored 21 points. Usually does even with a few drop passes. So it's pretty good. Steelers defense had a tough game, gave up 23 points against Washington, the football team. And that loss, man, that's got to hurt for Steelers fans.
So for Paris, Ryan Tannehill scored 27 points in a good matchup against the Browns and had 3 touchdowns. AJ Green was non-existent in a game against the Dolphins with that backup QB. On the other hand, the Dolphins defense scored 16 points against the Bengals with 2 interceptions. And Paris played 2 players that were out this week. That's interesting.
And the Alyssa and James matchup. So Harrison Butker scored the most points on your team. A kicker year. DeAndre Swift was out with an illness, but was still on Alyssa's team. Interesting. Calvin Ridley played well, over 15 points and over 100 yards receiving. I'm expecting nothing less from Calvin Ridley these days. And the Chargers defense had a tough game against the Pats. Can't speak enough again about the Chargers. 0 points there.
So for James, Darren Waller had an historic night at the tight end position for 45 points against the Jets. Chase Claypool had a tough game against a decent Washington team for only 5 points. Josh Allen got back to his usual ways for 30 points against the 49ers. And Booker, who you picked up to replace Josh Jacobs, didn't have too good of a game, only scoring 5 points.
In the Tej versus Joe crucial matchup, Kirk Cousins had a good game and threw for 3 touchdowns, getting 21 points in total, throwing to Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Benny Snell had a tough game, only scoring 3 points, stuffed at the goal line multiple times. Jason Sanders coming up big again with 14 points kicking. And Jimmy Graham and Travis Fulgham, big fat zeros.
Yeah. But for Joe, on the other hand, James Robinson had a great game with 22 points and a touchdown. Pretty much saved that day for him. Justin Herbert had a tough game against the Pats as well as Eckler. Again, those Chargers. Myles Gaskin was a great pickup and got him 14 points. And Randy Bullock let you down again. Only got you 0 points. I think it's time to switch up the kicker, man. Time to switch it up.
Interesting matchup because had Cole Beasley been played instead of benched, this could have gone the other way. In the John versus Israel matchup, another crucial one, Dalvin Cook played well in overtime and rushed for 120 yards for 23 points, doing Dalvin Cook things. The Bears defense had a tough game against Detroit offense, which can be scary at times. Negative points, never a good thing on a fantasy roster. Aaron Jones really saved his fantasy value day with a 70-yard run towards the end, helping him get 23 points. And Kyle Rudolph didn't shine so bright against the Jags. 0. That's the amount of points he got, John. 0.
So for Israel, Travis Kelce scored 27 points for Israel, but what else is new when it comes to him? Chase Edmonds had another rough week against the Rams defense. Maybe he isn't an RB2 with RB1 upside much anymore. Corey Davis went off against the Browns for 35 points. And Kareem Hunt only scored 8 points in a tough matchup against Tennessee. Now that Chubb is back, he may be having a tough time. I did hear, though, that he may have a thigh injury, so that may be something to think about.
The Alex versus Steph matchup. D-Hop scored 19 points against a tough Rams defense. Frank Gore did the opposite, only scoring 0.2. Yeah, what's that about, man? Pat Mahomes played well against Denver for 318 yards in total, 19 points. Not as good as Pat Mahomes normally does, but his floor is really high. And San Fran had a tough game against a high-powered Buffalo defense, scoring negative points for Axel. Tough year for Axel.
Definitely is. On the other hand, for Steph, who's our number 1 seed going into the playoffs, Marvin Jones Jr. balled out for 25 points as a replacement for Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay's been out for pretty much most of the season, not helping me at all. Gio Bernard had a tough day against that really good Miami defense, only scored 5 points, though. Alvin Kamara came up with some decent points against the Falcons defense with 17. And Russell Wilson had a tough game against the Giants defense, who's looking like they're going to be a pretty good team. No longer an MVP candidate? Who knows? Now, we have some special guests, like we talked about earlier, and we want to hear their insights about some things. So, Joe, who do you think is going to be the best player, or who do you think is going to be the player that can win you the championship, and who do you think can lose you the championship?
That's an excellent question. I would say the person who's been the most consistent, but also very high scoring, Robinson, who's gotten me high points almost every week. And he was a waiver wire pickup. So he saved my season pretty much. He's definitely going to be, but he also has a tough schedule ahead of him. So I am worried about that. Herbert, also waiver wire pickup, has kept me in it as well. I think last week's game was a really not a representation of what he can do. I mean, 45 points to 0. When does that ever really happen? So I think he has a good bounce back week, as well as Eckler. I think those 3. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Robinson's going to give me those points again. Person who's going to maybe lose it for me. Well, I got a different kicker. Hopefully I pick him up. So obviously he's not going to be here for me next week. I would say either Jones or probably Jones. He can either have a really good game or a really bad game. He's been suffering with that hamstring injury, although it didn't seem apparent last week, but hopefully he can pull through and give me another good game this week. I would say those 2 players.
All right. What about you, James? What do you think?
Well, as far as players that are winner for me, I think Josh Allen has returned to form, and I think that's very promising for my team. I think one of the things I'm really proud of and excited about in my team is how stacked with wide receiver talent it is. I think that Keenan Allen and Robbie Anderson are, since Robbie Anderson's coming off the bye week, are going to have pretty big games. Michael Thomas, I am feeling more hopeful about, especially after last week. But the two big games that he's had since he's been back have been against the same defense, as far as I'm concerned. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does against other defenses, and if he can, continue on that upward momentum. I've said this before, and I've said this, I'll say it again, and probably if I somehow win the championship, the major weakness in my team is definitely my running backs. Josh Jacobs, I'm looking right now, is still going to be out this week, which means Devontae Booker is that his name? Yes, Devontae Booker is going to be is just I'm going to have to start him, and I was even grateful I was able to pick him up from waivers. Jonathan Taylor, on the other hand, has been very, very hit or miss. He's no Saquon Barkley. I guess I'd put it that way. So yeah, I'm pretty much betting everything on my wide receiver and quarterback talent, and hoping my running backs show up. That's all I can do.
And for Joe, how do you feel your season went prior to the playoffs?
That is an interesting question. I was talking with John about that earlier. We went over my record. I believe I won the first game, lost 4 in a row, won 3 in a row, I think lost another 2 or something, came back, won 4 in a row. It was really on the edge. I was expecting to be out halfway through, but waiver wires helped me a lot. Like I said,
those can be very underappreciated. You can win players through the wire. I agree.
Yeah, Robinson, Herbert, all waiver wire. And Eckler was injured almost the whole season. He came back. I think he helped me secure a win 2 weeks ago. Last week he didn't have another big one, but definitely exciting season for me. Wasn't expecting it, but happy to make the playoffs though.
It's good though.
Sounds like a fun emotional roller coaster. What about you, James? How do you feel like your season went prior to the playoffs?
I didn't have the adversity in the beginning that Joe had, but at the same time, it felt like my team was in limbo for the first remaining of the season, or the first beginning of the season. It started off with, I think, a loss, which hurt. Then I got 2 wins. Then for a few weeks, it was like loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. Somewhere towards the end of the, I think towards the last leg of the season, I had a kind of an upswing that Joe had, that Benji had, where I just started winning. And David, I'm sorry to say, you were kind of in the middle of that 3-win streak rampage that ultimately would have gotten me into the playoffs. And of course, my team laid an egg against Stephanie's team like it did before, but that was the only hiccup I had. My team came to play this week and decisively won instead of by the skin of its teeth, beat Alyssa's team. So all in all, I guess I had to say that it was a slow build up. Michael Thomas returning definitely helped me make that last push to the playoffs. All in all, I think it was a nail biter for all of us. I was in the same boat as pretty much everyone else, along with Joe, along with David, along with Alyssa, along with Israel. So yeah, this has been very exciting.
It's good to hear. I like when leagues are like that towards the end, and even during the season too. So the next question that we have for you guys is, who do you think is going to win it all out of the 4 of you that are in the playoffs? Start with Joe.
I mean, I wish I could say me, But being realistic, I'm definitely rooting for me, but I think it's going to be between James and Israel. I just think they have the better team with the better players for, end of the season play where people and players are playing harder than they've ever played to get into their playoffs. So I think it's going to be one of them. Between them, I think it's going to be Israel.
So, Joe, since James and Israel are playing each other in the semifinals, are you saying that you think that that's basically the finals?
Well, I do think I'm going to beat Steph. I think she has two really good players, but she's slacking on the rest of them unless they can have explosive games and cover the loss from the other players. Or maybe her players, have a good game. But I think I'll beat Steph, and I think I'll play Israel.
Interesting. What about you, James?
Well, I appreciate the compliment, Joe. A lot of people feel better about my team than I do, which I guess is I guess makes sense. You have anxieties when you're managing a team and everything like that. But yeah, I agree with you 110%, Joe, about Israel. Israel's team is a monster. It is something to reckon with. And it's going to take enormous fortune for me to overcome Israel's monster that he has. And while we're on the topic of fortune, for you, Joe, for your matchup that you have with Stephanie, I mean, looking at the points for and points against for Stephanie, she definitely has some supernatural. I don't know what you would call it.
Dampering abilities.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah, something like that. Something has her back, and it's not from this realm. So I think you have to watch out for Stephanie. She could possibly win it all, with this streak. If she does, I think I'm open to believing in a higher power. It's really remarkable watching what Stephanie was able to do this season, and just everything lining up the way it did for her. As far as who's going to make it, I honestly think I have a 30% chance of beating Israel. That's what I would say, the gut feeling. I think it's 50-50 for you and Stephanie. And it's just going to be hard work versus luck, for you and Stephanie respectively, because I think, Joe, you had to really, grind and manage to get to where you are. The fact that you didn't give up, after that losing streak you had early in the season, speaks a lot about how, seriously you take this, and what you were willing to do to win, and that you're very savvy, man. You couldn't have made it if you were not savvy or not. So again, 50-50 for you, 70-30 for Israel. I honestly think Israel is going to take it all, to be honest.
So I do want to point out that last week, when you all made your predictions on who the Final Four would be, Steph had already clinched, but you all mentioned I would make it, and yet that was not the case. So I wonder if you're both trying to voodoo jinx Israel this time around and seeing if you can eliminate them. So good colluding together, guys. Very nicely done. And with that, who do you think got most screwed this season? Either a player, a team, or even a fantasy team? Starting with you, James.
I'll say it right off the bat for fantasy teams. I said this last time in our meeting, Joe. I think you got screwed over the most. I mean, again, going back to the points for and points against. If you look at the team of our other commissioner here, it didn't make sense. It doesn't honestly make sense. The stats he was able to put up and the record he has, it doesn't reflect at all. I think if anything, it reflects how many victories I got personally, a team like mine, that were just by like the skin of their teeth. I correct me if I'm wrong. I think I may have had a narrow victory. It was either a narrow victory or narrow defeat with John's team. I think it was a narrow victory on my part. And I keep bringing it up, but the narrow victory I had over Alyssa too, So it seems like John was able to put up good numbers, but just got extremely unlucky. David, you also got kind of screwed over too, with the way things panned out. I do feel bad for the way for what happens where the chips fell. But I'm very excited about the people that were able to make it into the playoffs finally. I think it's going to be a good show. I don't think this league has been robbed, so to speak. Was there another part to that question aside from people?
It was really just whether you felt a player, a team, or a fantasy team. You don't have to mention each one individual, just something of note.
Okay. Last thing I'll say about players being screwed over in the NFL. Carson Wentz, man. I'm sorry about Carson Wentz. I don't know. I don't know.
James, salt in the wound.
Yeah, salt on the wound. I'm sorry about Carson Wentz. That must be very hard for you, both as an Eagles fan and as a fantasy manager. Very, very bad. But those are my two things. You guys in fantasy and Carson Wentz. I think those are the two guys that got screwed over.
I just want to cut in real quick before Joe gives his answer. It was a 5-point victory, James. You beat me by
5 point. Thank you. Yes, 5-point victory. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. Like narrow victory is able to pull out that contributed to me just squeaking into the playoffs along with everyone else. All right. Sorry, I took up too much time. What about you, Joe?
Wow. Man, there was a lot of crazy injuries this year to like top stars. Like think about all the number one picks that went down. Maybe not number one. Did Michael Thomas go number one, round one?
Yes, I picked him up.
Michael Thomas, Eckler, Saquon, McCaffrey, all these players had extended injuries that kept them out of. And, Israel still made it to the playoffs. I still made it to the playoffs, but James still made it to the playoffs. So really, the only other one that didn't make it to the playoffs was Barkley. And I forget who drafted Barkley.
Alyssa did. Alyssa drafted Barkley.
And she was doing well in the beginning of the season too. Then I don't know what happened. Maybe lack of management like we talked about. So maybe she screwed herself, I think. Axel's team, I think, I was just looking at his record, doesn't reflect his player potential. But I don't think anyone got screwed. The team itself, I think players individually got screwed. And people were able to manage the rest of their team and still come out ahead of the game. So that was important. So I think it was really, really good management this year.
All right. So for our last question, we're going to kind of want you guys to talk a little bit about your respective matchups and kind of go into a little bit of detail about how you feel, I guess, position-wise, or if you want to talk a little bit about it a little bit more in depth than what we talked about previously. So pretty much, what do you think of your respective matchups and possibly your matchup going forward? We'll start with James.
All right, so I'm pulling up the matchup I have with Israel right here. I have a slight advantage. Josh Allen, for example, it's kind of like neck and neck with Deshaun Watson. That's not really an advantage. Surprisingly, like I was talking all this, I was talking ill of my running backs, but they have an advantage over Kareem Hunt and Chase Edmonds. Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen also have an advantage, although I don't think that Michael Thomas is a little bit unstable at the moment, so I don't feel too not that confident or not too confident about that. Woods though on the Los Angeles Rams, that's someone to look out for. That guy scares me. And of course, I have Darren Waller, who is the number 2 tight end, especially after that monster performance he was able to put up against my Jets last week, is going up against the number 1 tight end, Travis Kelce. So that one's a little bit disheartening, but he also has Davis on the Titans going up against Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson's I'm taking a risk on. I'm taking a risk benching Chase Claypool in favor of Robbie Anderson. So hopefully that goes well. And Green Bay, maybe I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to. I might have to. I'm going to be honest right now. I might have to do some digging through the waiver wire. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep Green Bay. Matthew Stafford's still Matthew Stafford, and they're going up against Detroit. So, and I don't know. Maybe maybe I'm hoping that Josh Allen drums up enough offense to give our guy Bass here, my kicker, some points too. So all in all, it says that I have an 8-point advantage, or somewhere between an 8 and 7-point advantage over Israel. But the fact that Michael Thomas, like I said, being unstable, I don't think they're projecting 13.2 points for Devontae Booker. I don't believe that, not for 1 second. So somebody else is going to have to put up bigger numbers to supplement that in order for me to feel safe and secure. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm not for 1 second do I feel easy in the playoffs, especially against Israel's team. So
it is a 2-week combined playoff scenario. So just be mindful that the 1 week may not look as good, but you can't possibly come back the second. And be careful with giving away some waiver wire thought, because you still got people who might listen in. So
yeah, I felt comfortable saying that already, because, like, as Joe pointed out before, there's management. What's the word I'm looking for? There's very high management in this league. So I suspect people are already doing that already. I'm not going to inspire anybody that's not already inspired. And we're in the playoffs now, so I think everybody is kind of set in what they're doing. So other than that, yeah, I still stand by what I said before. 70-30 Israel, regardless of what the point differential is for the projected scores. What about you, Joe?
My matchup, I think I'd rather face her than any of the other two teams. So I'm happy with that so far. I'm actually out projected 130 to 118, but like earlier in the day, her projection was like 110. Now it's 118. So it is going up. I mean, she has one of the best quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Alvin Kamara, who, as of the last 4 games, he fell off point-wise. He was putting up 20, 30, 40 points up until halfway through the season. Then his quarterback went. So I'm optimistic about that matchup. He's still very dangerous. So, I mean, Herbert versus Wilson, as long as Herbert doesn't, do what he did last week, I think that's a good matchup. I think Eckler versus Kamara is another good matchup. And I think I have Robinson over Bernard. I think I can outscore Bernard there. Sterling Shepard versus Cup. Cup is very, very volatile, high or low. So I would give it to Cup there. He's going against New England. Shepard's going against Arizona. I'm not sure who has the better defense, but as far as record, I think Cup has a better record. Jones versus Cooper. Jones projected 17, Cooper projected 12. So Jones either, he's been pretty good at matching his projections, except obviously the weeks that he's injured. But then you got the tight end matchup, Goddard, who's been saving me, versus Tanyan, who's been putting up crazy numbers over the last 3 weeks. It's like 17, 15, and 13, which is pretty good for a tight end.
Especially Green Bay tight end.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm sure that was waiver wire too, like I said. So, I mean, that's a good matchup. Marvin Jones Jr., who apparently had a crazy game last week, would have never expected it, going against Gaskin, who's second week back from injured reserve. So I'm optimistic about Gaskin too. I think he has a better week than he did last week. He got back in the groove of things. He's facing Kansas City, who Kansas City has the 19th ranked rushing defense, I guess. So it's a good matchup for him. Let's see, just pulling up our playoff bracket again.
So Joe, again, who do you think is going to win in the end between you and Steph?
I still go with me. I think I'm going to pull ahead of this one. Yeah. I think overall I have a better, well-rounded team.
All right, sounds good. So one on the other hand, James not thinking he'll pull through. Joe, you thinking he'll pull through. We'll see what actually happens in the end. Let's see if you both actually successfully double jinx Israel. So thank you guys for your takes on this, and for everybody else in the league. This is our last video of the season. So we'll see you again next year for the week 1 recap of 2021. So best of luck to everyone. Best of luck, Joe. Best of luck, James. With that said, take care, everyone. I'm David, your co-commish.
I'm John, your other co-commissioner. Happy holidays to everybody. And yeah, best of luck. Best of luck to the playoff teams. Best of luck to whoever's in the, the other bracket. Let's play some football.
Sounds good.
Well said,
Thanks,
Joe.
guys. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Take care.